And consistent giving has never been easier. It's as easy as sending a text from your phone. Simply pull out your phone and text the word GIVE to 605-299-8374. It's as simple as that. Thanks for helping us make a lasting impact in the Black Hills.
We know that life is better together, and as a church, we value community. It's how we grow, how we learn, and how we serve each other. Community happens during our weekly services and our large gatherings, but it can't stop there. We need to go deeper. It happens in small groups, it happens over coffee, it happens over the phone, it happens with friends and family and neighbors. Not being able to gather at a large scale has been hard for us. There's no question about that. But it's also been teaching us. It's pushing us into connection in other ways, and maybe ways we've always needed. We have the opportunity to seize this time, to go deep, and to build connections. You can come out of this stronger and closer than ever before. A perfect way to start is by hosting a watch party. What is a watch party? It's simply a group of friends, family, or neighbors setting a time to get together and engage with church online. Decide on your level of comfort and invite someone in. You can set up a Zoom meeting, a room on Facebook, or a video chat while streaming a service. It's meeting in backyards or parking lots where you can watch on a phone or computer together. It's opening up your living room to worship together and maybe even sharing a meal. It's getting creative and using your imagination and asking, how can I grow? And how can I invite someone to grow with me? Pick up your phone, send a text, knock on a door, and invite some people to watch church with you this weekend. Go to watchparty.fs.church to find out more. You're not alone in this time. We're here to help you on your way. Let's build community, connection, and grow deeper together.
Hello, I want to welcome you to our church online. At Fountain Springs, we believe that anyone and everyone matters, and our mission is to show people who Jesus is, wherever they are. We have a community of people that are meeting all over the world, watching exactly the same service at the same time, and here's the best part, experiencing God together. So no matter where you are today, no matter what you're walking through in life, hear me, you are not alone. Church is coming to you, and we are excited that you have joined us. As you get ready for our online experience, I just want to walk you through just some quick rundowns of what to expect. So here's what it's going to start off with. It's going to be some amazing music, and then you'll get to hear and we'll share about what God is doing in the life of our church. And then lastly, you'll hear a message from one of our pastors. Now, throughout this next hour, our hope is that you'll encounter God, experience life change, and find community. You may have some preconceived notions about online church, but church gatherings, no matter where they happen, are still about people. To get the full community experience, be sure to participate in our chat section. This is an opportunity for you to build relationships with people here locally and around the world, and you can share your questions, praises, or if you're willing to be vulnerable, your struggles in life. But thank you so much for joining us today, and we are all better when we live life together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Fountain Springs Church. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Josh. We'll be your host today. Today we're starting a new sermon series called Parables, where we look at the hidden words of Jesus.
And because we think anyone and everyone matters to Jesus, we have services specifically tailored for your kids. If you haven't seen them before, this is the week to check them out. Our elementary school kids will be hearing the most important message ever spoken. So make sure you check it out at kids.fs.church.
We're going to hand it over to the band now, so join us as we enter into the presence of God through worship.
Sing our praise. Our praise awaits you with the dawn. Our soul awakes to you and lift a song. We've seen the things that you have done, and still we know the past is yet to come. There's more to come. And open the gates and let your glory come down. Open our hearts and let our worship pour out. Presence here is all we need. You break our chains with sounds of victory. You're changing everything. Open the gates and open the gates and let your glory come down. And open our hearts and let our worship pour out. Open the gates and let your glory come down. Open our hearts and let our worship pour out. Come flood this space. No one else could take your place. Come have your way. No one else could take your place. Come flood this space. No one else could take your place. Come have your way. No one else could take your place. Open the gates and let your glory come down. Open our hearts and let our worship pour out. And open the gates and let our glory come down. And open our hearts and let our worship pour out. Well, amen, church. This next song, we call it a vertical song, and it's because when we're singing, we are singing directly to God. And when we sing, we are proclaiming who He is, what He has done, what He has yet to do. And we do this not because He forgets. We don't need to remind Him, but we do this as an act of worship, to proclaim who He is, to acknowledge these things that He has done. In this next song, my favorite line says, "You give beauty for ashes." And this reminds us that even when life happens and we think our world is upside down and we are left with the ruin of what we thought was or what we thought could have been, God opens doors we didn't even know existed. And we know this because he has done it time and time again in the past, and we read all throughout Scripture. And even in the first book of the Bible, in Genesis chapter 2, we read that out of the dust he created us and breathed his life, his spirit into us, making us in his own image. So if you know this, would you sing and proclaim who our God is? Search the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together. And every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, and nothing is better than you. Show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountains is the God of the valley, and there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, and nothing is better than you. Oh, there's better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, and nothing is better than you. Sing, you turn morning, you turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who cares. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who cares. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into army. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who cares. You're the only one who cares. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing, and nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing, and nothing is better than
Let's sing this out together. Let the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he is my song. You are good, you're good. Oh, oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, yes, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. You are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, yes, you are good, you're good.
You're never gonna let me down. And you're never gonna let me down. Come on, church, sing that. And you're never gonna let me down. 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 You're never gonna let me down. And you're never gonna let me down.
You are good.
Well, hey everyone, I'm so excited that you've joined us. But if you're like me, maybe you're at this spot to where days feel like they've blurred together, you don't really know what month it is, and you're just confused on where we're at in the calendar altogether. But there's been a day coming that is now starting to put things together, and that's July's here. So that's the time where we celebrate this country's freedom, and it's an incredible time where we've got fireworks and we've got all those things that happen. But I just want to take a little moment and just talk about freedom. I mean, you think about it. I can't imagine that day where all those who were fighting for America to be its own country and seeing it happen and being a part of that and how important that is. But I also think we have so many other moments that we experience, and it's a little bit smaller scale, but that moment when you moved out of the house, got your own place, got out of kind of parents' control. It's a big deal in experiencing that freedom. Or maybe you kind of started your own company and got out from having a boss and being able to do all that. These freeing moments can be so powerful. And I think one of the most powerful freeing moments you could ever experience in life is noticing the freedom that God gives you and experiencing it to where He wipes away the sin and the death that's in your life, and that freedom, it overtakes you. It's incredible. But there's a crazy part with freedom. There's a responsibility that's always attached with it. Because sometimes we move out into this next part of freedom trying to get away from responsibilities, but there's always new responsibilities that come with freedom. You think about it, go back to America becomes its own country, but now they've got the responsibility of leading it. That person moves out of the parents' house, but now they've got the responsibility of paying bills or just taking care of their house. Or you go back to the person who starts their own company. Now, they have all of that falls on them. It rises and falls. And with God, there is a responsibility we carry too. If you make that choice and call yourself a Christian, I need you to hear this. In Galatians 5:13, it says this: "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself. If you bite and devour each other, watch out, or you will be destroyed by each other." So I read this, I thought it was so important to share, because I feel like in our country today, I think if we're honest, there seems to be a lot more devouring than there is serving. And there's a lot of freedom that we have in this country. There's a lot of freedom we have in Christ. So I think it's important for us to take a moment and just go, am I living out the responsibility that I have with this freedom that God has given me? And so here's what I want to do. I want us to simply take a moment to where you talk with God. And here's the two things I want you to cover in that conversation with God. The first one is thanking God for the freedoms you have. Start off by saying, God, thank you for the freedom that sin doesn't hold me anymore. Death does not hold me anymore. But also, you can also thank Him for the freedoms that are very simple. The fact that you get to live, the fact that you have breath in your lungs, you can walk, you have relationships. There's so many freedoms in that as well. And then the second part of it, I simply want you to ask God, help me to take on the responsibility that comes with that freedom, that you may honor Him with that responsibility. So I simply want to give you a moment. I'm going to give you like 30 seconds, and I simply want you to talk with God and wrestle through those two things, and then I'll pray with us. So go ahead and take that time wrestling with, thanking God for the freedoms you have, and are you owning the responsibilities that come with that freedom? Go ahead right now. God, we thank you for even being able to talk to you, the freedom we have in that. And God, we do thank you for the freedoms that we have. There are so many that are present in our lives. But I pray, God, that we'd recognize the responsibility that we have. I pray that as Christians, we'd be defined by how we serve others, how we love others. May we take that responsibility seriously and recognize that the gifts that you've given us, these things that create so much freedom in our lives, may we recognize that freedom is always connected to responsibility. And so God, we love you and we thank you for teaching us that and showing us that. And may we live that out in a way that honors you. And so God, we pray this in your name. Amen.
As a church, we believe in irrational generosity. It's a core belief that allows us to see miracles and be a miracle to so many. We believe that giving is an essential aspect of the Christian life, and that's why we are taking time in our service to invite you to join us. Let's live out this essential belief right now. Giving is fast, simple, and secure. All you have to do is go to give.fs.church. At the top of the page, just click the Give button, or scroll down and see a list of ways to give. Thanks for propelling our mission forward. You are making a difference in helping people experience the love of Jesus with your generosity.
Luke 12:13-21. Then someone called from the crowd, "Teacher, please tell my brother to divide our father's estate with me." Jesus replied, "Friend, who made me judge over you to decide such things as that?" Then he said, "Beware. Guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own." Then he told them a story. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced very fine crops. Then he said to himself, "What should I do? I don't have any room for all my crops." Then he said, "I know. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll have enough room to store all my wheat, grains, and other goods. And I'll sit back and say to myself, 'My friend, you have done enough, stored away for years to come. Now take it easy. Eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool! You will die this very night. Then who will get everything you've worked for?' Yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God."
Well, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being a part of this. And over the next 5 weeks, we're going to be diving into the series about the parables. Parables have been described as the invisible words of Jesus. And the cool part is you're going to be able to hear 5 different takes on parables from people that are going to share. And I want to challenge you. I want you to be a part of this. I want to make sure that you take time each week to dive in and hear what's going to be shared, because I think they're going to do an amazing job. And I'm excited about that and believe that it's going to be just a great time. And so we're going to dive into one here in a minute. Mine is actually the rich young fool. And you may say, like, okay, well, what does that even mean? Well, there's a geek moment to this rich young fool parable. It's the only one where God is mentioned. And I don't geek out that much in moments like this, but that was one of those moments that like, oh, that's pretty cool. All right, but that kind of gives you a perspective of who I am. I'm a distracted guy. I'm not always like the dog in Up, right? Squirrel every which way. But there are definitely moments where that is the case. Actually, it's become my wife's favorite quality about me. And so in the midst of this, it's safe to say that maybe you can resonate with that. Like, there are ways which we are always distracted, or we find ourselves distracted. Like, what are we doing next? What's happening today? Is it time for vacation? Are we done with everything that's been going on and we're sick of it, right? But I'm there with you. I'm there with you in this moment of saying, I get it. Being distracted is a part of who we are and what is going on. And so there's a story that I believe just kind of hits that on the head for me. I was in Guatemala a couple years ago, and I love taking mission trips to Guatemala. It is absolutely one of my favorite things to do. Being able to share with other people from the church what God is doing in Guatemala and being a part of the lives of the Guatemalans and just working or just having a blast. And one of my favorite places to go in all of Guatemala is this waterfall that is actually, the water is heated by a volcanic activity. And it's amazing. Like, it starts at 100 degrees at top, and as it trickles down the rocks, it cools down and hits the water at about a cool 85 degrees. And it's amazing. We cliff dive off some of the ledges. It's pretty phenomenal. And so this one time I was super excited and I ran out of the van and I'm like, all right, guys, let's go. And we're running. And all of a sudden my friend Roberto calls out to me and he says, Chris, come back here in a second. And I came back and Roberto points down at the ground and on the ground is a tarantula about like this big. And I was like, holy cats, that's nuts. Thankfully it was dead, right? And it threw me off. But he's like, you gotta watch what you're doing. I thought I was more familiar with the area than I really was. And I got distracted from where I wanted to go because I was excited about showing my friends one of the cool places that I love. But we've all been there. We've had moments where we feel like we're heading one direction and we feel maybe more familiar with it than we really are. And we get distracted along the path that we're supposed to be taking. And what does that mean for us? And our world continues to provide tons of distractions. You don't have to look very far to find distractions that pull you away and draw your attention. For me, it can be cookies, right? There's nothing wrong with cookies. Maybe it's Pastor David's unhealthy appetite towards barbecue. And trust me, he's not the only staff member that loves barbecue. And you can go down the list, bikes, mountain biking. You can even talk about camping. The list, just insert your distraction right there. Well, hey, we're going to look at a story which I believe Jesus dives in to talking about one of the distractions that we engage with and that we come to in a place of saying, oh, maybe that is me. And you may say, well, I'm kind of familiar with that. I've got it. But I want to encourage you to unpack it with me as we go. And Jesus is in the middle of sharing a story. And in the middle of it, he takes a breath, it seems like, and then somebody just jumps in and says, I need you to settle something for me. And in Luke chapter 12, we're going to check it out. Then someone called from the crowd, Teacher, please tell my brother to divide our father's estate with me. Jesus replied, Friend, who made me a judge over you to decide such things as that? Then he said, Beware, guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own. And then he told them a story. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. He said to himself, what should I do? I don't have room for all my crops. Then he said, I know. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll have enough room to store all my wheat and other goods. And I'll sit back and I'll say to myself, my friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything that you have worked for? Yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. What an impactful story. And I can't imagine that when the gentleman interrupted Jesus to say, hey, teacher, what was he going to say? I mean, I think I know. Like, give me sweet retribution, right? Tell my brother what's up. Give me what's mine. That's all you got to say. Jesus, make him look bad for holding on and being greedy. And Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus dives into a story, and maybe the guy's just kind of inquisitive there for a moment going, I don't think you understand. This is not a difficult situation. Just tell my brother what's going on. Make him look bad. Let's go. But Jesus dives into the story not just about the specific question, but he dives into a broad range of a heart issue that we have to deal with, that we have to come to grips with, one of greed, and not just one kind of greed, but every kind of greed. And there are actually 4 types of greed that as I did research and as I got ready for this time, I noticed, and they were hoarding, overspending, comparison, and entitlement. And Jesus gets to the heart of it. Life is not measured by what we own. Beware of every kind of greed. And so I want to share what I think are the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you might be thinking, well, that's pretty simple. I've got this. But I want to encourage you to just press in as we unpack this story. And it starts with the good. And maybe you thought that right away, I'm good, right? And if we look at this story, we're like, what's bad about it? The guy had everything. The guy had fertile land, he had crops, he had more than he needed. And what's the problem? The guy in the story had it all, and Jesus never said these things were bad. Jesus actually gave them to him. And just so we're clear, like in our context, in our sense of the word of good, we're good. Like we are blessed beyond measure with what we have in the context of a world issue. It's unbelievable to fathom. But one of the things I want you to know, and I want you to check this out. Money is neither my God nor my devil. It is a form of energy that tends to make us more of who we already are, whether it's greedy or loving. And Dan Millman, I think, hits the nail on the head. It just brings out who we already are, what we're already doing, what we're already coming to grips with and trying to understand. And that brings me to a challenge that is really impactful to me. And it says, greed desires to set the course of action. Greed desires to set the course of action. And hear me when I say this. Greed is happy to set it. And I don't think any of us really want that opportunity. Like, hey, just give greed free rein in our lives. Shoot, my wife doesn't even want me to fully set the course of action. In this moment of thinking about this, I remember a story, like when I was a young youth pastor, I wanted competition. I wanted the challenge. And I remember we were in Oregon, and the National Youth Conference came out. That was in San Diego. And we had a 15-passenger van, and I had teens that wanted to go. And so the challenge was on right away. I'm like, all right, well, let's see. Okay, how long is it to San Diego? How many teens will I have? How many stops do I need to make? And I go through this list, and I'm like, in 14 hours. I think I can make it in 13. 5 or 6 stops? Man, I think I can make it in 3 stops. And so I put it to the teens and I put it to the parents. I said, listen, this is going to be an intense trip. We need to make great time so that we can make the most of our time there. And I put it to them, and I had parents shaking their heads like, right? Like, you are crazy. Why are you trying to make it there so fast? I say, because we got places to go, all right? So in the middle of all this, I get them in the van. I warn them again. My wife is just shaking her head like, why are you doing this to us? And I said, just trust me, we're going to do it. And she's like, there's no way you're going to stop 3 times all the way to San Diego. And you know what? We did it. It was amazing. And we got to San Diego. We went to the zoo. We had a blast before everything started. It was phenomenal. But it starts out like that. Greed starts off like that. I can do it. You got this. Why not? Get after it. Go for it. And in the middle of all that, we listen to less and less voices around us. It's impactful to understand that as we continue to allow seeds of discourse, we allow greed to have a voice. We entertain those voices that say, you can do it. You need this. Get after this. Don't listen to those doubters. Don't listen to those people in your life that are telling you something different. We have to be careful, and it slowly takes us away from the good and puts us in danger, I believe. And greed also, and hear me when I say this, greed also disguises itself as fairness. They have it. You should have it. I think it's only fair that you get what's coming to you, right? The brother in this story was exactly that. He was like, listen, that's my money. Tell him to give him my money. Oh man, what a battle and a struggle that is when we try to bring fairness into the equation, because, I mean, you and I both know, right? Like our parents told us long ago, life isn't fair, deal with it. And so as I think about that, the voices that are inside of us that speak to us about fairness, but also the voices outside of us that speak to us about fairness, right? Like if your kids look at you and say, are we really going to be the only family with sparklers? Really? Or, Dad, they have a pool. You know the pools are closed, right? Why aren't we getting a pool? We should do something about that. Or my favorite one, Dad, did you see that their Traeger was actually bigger than yours? I think they can get like 6 pork butts on there, and yours only holds 4. So, man, those voices are tough. That idea of fairness, like I need that, I want that, comes and it sets a course of action moving forward. And we have this sneaking suspicion that once we acquire it, everything will go away, right? But the crazy part about that is once we acquire it, something happens. We think we want more. And I blame Facebook algorithms for this, okay? Like recently, we just purchased a new to us car. Like a new to us car for the Swordouts is like starting at 100,000 miles, right? And maybe you're there. But in the middle of all that, the Facebook algorithms don't know that you bought a car, so they keep showing you car after car after car. Or if you've been looking for couches and you finally purchase the couch, and you go, we've got it, we're there. But Facebook says, no, did you see this couch? Maybe you want this couch. And people ask you, well, did you get this? No, we didn't. Well, you should have got that. And it's just madness because greed definitely wants to set the course. And as one writer put it, greed never rests from acquiring more. And if we go with it, we could quickly lose sight of the good that we have. Things can go from good to bad really quickly. And one of the things I know, if that's the case, if things are going to go from good to bad really quickly, and we're going to believe that lie, we're going to fight the lie that it's okay to have what we have to be grateful for all that we have. And in James 1:17, it says, whatever is good and perfect is a gift coming down to us from God our Father, who created all the lights in the heavens. He never changes or casts a shifting shadow. To realize, to be grateful for all we have, that God is giving perfect gifts to us, coming down from him for us. And what a powerful reminder that is, that if we're going to stay in that good, if we're going to battle against the desire to go from good to bad, we've got to be grateful for what we have. Because if we're not, then we move into that category that says things are bad. Things aren't good right now. And so in the middle of that, suddenly we find ourselves in the pursuit of keeping up. How can I get that? I'm not satisfied with this. And there are tons of voices that will affirm that position. There are tons of voices. Remember the 4 types of greed that we identified: hoarding, overspending, comparison, and entitlement. The young man grew rapidly unsatisfied with the situation. He looked at what he had and he said, this isn't acceptable. And I don't know about you, like when we grow unsatisfied, like if we have money in my pocket, if I have money in my pocket, it's as good as gone. Or if we don't have a purpose for the money that we do have, it's such a dangerous place to be because that is gone. Like, oh, I don't have anything. Oh man, I've got this here. Let me just take care of that. And that builds that unsatisfaction if we don't have a purpose, if we don't have an intention. And I think it's vital to tackle a couple of thoughts. He made the decision to tear down his barns and build new ones. Maybe his barns were just brand new. But he decided, listen, this is inadequate. This isn't enough. He was believing this lie. He doesn't seem to consult anyone before tearing it down. Listen, if we don't consult anyone before doing something, husbands and wives, you know what I'm talking about, right? Man, husbands, if you come home with something and you're like, hey, what do you think of this? We didn't talk about that. Wives, you come home and your husband says, hey, where'd you get that? Oh, we talked about it. No, we didn't. Like, we have those moments, right, where you immediately regret not consulting your spouse or your parents about, hey, I did this. And they're like, yeah, we didn't give you permission to do it. Those are rough conversations. Those are tough moments in the midst of life. Because one of the things I know about greed is we move into the bad, but greed never tells us the whole truth. Greed never tells us the whole truth. We only ever see really the end result of greed, right? Like we only ever see the end result of getting what we want. We never see what takes place in the process to get to that moment. He seems to make the assumption that all these years will be like the other. He seems to make the assumption that everything is going to be all right. There's nothing to worry about in this moment. And as a farmer, I feel like he should have known that there are things that he needed to pay attention to. And so I got on the phone and texted a number of my friends that are farmers to say, hey, what's the danger in literally believing every year is going to be the same? And I got some great responses. One of my friends, John, who's a farmer over in the Wall area, he says, you can't predict disease, pandemic, or plague. My friend Darren, who's a farmer over in Minnesota, he says, markets fluctuate so crazy and you can have too little or too much rain. Jay, a friend that farms up in North Dakota, he said, there's a danger in being set in your ways. Agriculture changes so rapidly and you have to be intentional with the ways that it changes as a farmer and lean into those practices. And then my friend John, who's just up north on the other side of the border in North Dakota, he says, the danger is thinking you know it all. You've got to innovate. You've got to grow with it. You've got to be willing to press in to other people that are telling you different things about how you farm. General Patton said something that's so challenging. Take calculated risks. That is quite different from being rash. I love that. Combating the bad means coming to grips that if it all goes away, I'm blessed to have what I have. And if that's a realization we have to come to, that I'm blessed to have what I have, that he's the one that gives us that. We realize that it's all his. And in 1 Corinthians 10:26, it says this, for the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And what a powerful reminder that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it and everything that we have belongs to him. And it's such a great reminder that not every year is the same, but God is the same. He's faithful. God is the same, and that's the only thing that we can bank on. But if we refuse to acknowledge that it's all his, and we refuse to believe the lie that the enemy tells us that what we have is inadequate and it's never going to get us to where we want to go, things go from bad to ugly really quick. And things go from bad to ugly really quick. And we become foolish, and we become consumed, and we become just this sense of there's nothing that could satisfy us or quench it. Everything is just miserable around us. But what he didn't realize in the story is that his life was going to be required of him that very moment. And so as we look in Luke and just kind of recap this, it says that I'll sit back and say to myself, my friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything that you've worked for? There's so much intensity when Jesus says you fool. It means that one lives life as if God or God's will is of no consequence. Can we just admit right now, nobody wants to be in the ugly category? Nobody. We all love the idea of taking it easy, eating, drinking, being merry, but we never really stop to weigh the consequences of what that looks like and how that plays out in our lives, what it takes to get to that moment. And the ugly truth of it all is that we never really see that we're in the ugly until we're up to our eyeballs in it. We look around, how did I get here? How did I get to this place? Because one thing that we've come to understand is that a greed-filled heart is never satisfied. It's not just about the money, but what is lost in the process of being greedy. Friends, family, position, just our overwhelming sense of security. Maybe things that we thought would be there are pushed to the wayside or forgotten altogether. And that's just an unbelievable place to be, of coming to the realization that you look around and you're like, hey, I have all this, but yet you don't have anybody else with you to be a part of it. Another thing that I understand is greed intentionally blocks our view of the needs of others. Greed intentionally blocks our view of the needs of others. Every time I say that to myself, I think of Ebenezer Scrooge, right? The moment where Ebenezer is by himself behind a desk yelling at Bob Cratchit saying, no, you can't have Christmas off. No, I don't care about what your family's going through. And you just have this sense of somebody that is so unbelievably happy. And this young man had such a great opportunity to look around him and see the needs of others. And trust me, it doesn't take long for us to look around us, right, and see the needs of other people. They're not hidden. They're there in plain sight. And are we going to take advantage of stepping into that opportunity to see others' needs? Don't make it so difficult that something has to rattle you so hard that you begin to try to see beyond yourself into the lives of others, into the lives of the things that are going on around you, that you're really losing at life. The end result of life can't be stuff or a loss of meaningful relationships from a life spent pursuing an elusive goal. We can get lost pursuing some elusive goal, some lie that we've been told that if we obtain this, if we get to this, if we understand this, we'll finally be at peace. And if we're going to believe that lie, and if we're in danger, I think there are some things that we have to do. And one of the first things I believe we have to do, more importantly than anything, is guard your heart. Guard your heart. Put boundaries in place. Talk to other people. Seek wise counsel. And everything flows from what is going on in your heart. And in Proverbs 4:23 it says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Man, those boundaries, those things you put in place that guard and protect you from going in the direction that you want to go. This doesn't have to be in just the ugly section. This could have been in the good section as well. If we are willing to guard our heart against greed, guard our heart against everything else that's going on, it's so essential. I put this in the ugly category, but man, how I know that it's vital and it serves a purpose at every stage of this story that we're shared. In our life, our relationship, everything is too valuable not to guard. And then another thing is be looking at others' needs. Be looking at others' needs. In Philippians 2:4 it says, don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. Don't look only for your own interest, but take an interest in other too. A generous heart is born with little, not with much. A generous heart is born. You don't have to reach a certain level to have a generous heart. Wherever you're at, just be generous. And it will only feed who we are ready and who we already are. When I was a kid, I loved Paul Harvey. I'd listen to him in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I would catch this moment of like the rest of the story. He had this segment, and I always look forward to hearing the rest of the story. And that story is not just about the guy that we read about, but it's us. What is our story? What's the rest of the story gonna be? And I believe we get a glimpse of it in Proverbs 11:28. I love this. Those who trust in riches will fall, but the righteous will thrive like a green leaf. And if you're like me, maybe in your mind you're going, a green leaf. Oh yeah, I have little leaves around. No, I'm not talking about like that little 4-leaf clover that you find while you're hiking in the woods. I'm talking like an Amazon leaf, right? 6 feet long. It's as broad as my shoulders, and it covers the sun for hours at a time. And it really is flourishing, and it's right where it needs to be at the right moment and the right time, because it's bringing a thriving nature to your life. It's bringing you to a place of being able to look up and to trust and believe that this is exactly where you need to be. Trusting in riches won't get you there, but thriving in what Christ has for you, and this story that plays out, that shows us and challenges us to look inside ourselves. Am I in the good? Am I in the bad? Or man, am I really in the ugly? So I want to ask you, what course of action are you willing to take? What's the course of action that you need to take right now? Because we talked about some things. Maybe you need to begin to choose to live with a grateful heart. Maybe circumstances aren't where you want them to be right now. And you would say, man, if only if, and we can get so caught up in the only if moments. But what I know is if we choose to live with a grateful heart, we allow that to flow through us. And I'm grateful for whatever I have, whenever I have it at the moment, because I know it comes from the Father. Maybe for you, you just need to be reminded that we're just managers. God freely gives it to us. It's His, but we just get to manage it. Maybe for you, you need to put some boundaries up in your heart, and you need to begin guarding it and protecting it. And you need to come to a place of listening to wise counsel around you and saying, I need to understand that in such a greater way. Guard my heart. Heavenly Father, don't let me be swayed by what the enemy says and the lies that he's trying to tell me that I need this or I need that. Maybe you're doing well in some of those, but looking out for the needs of others is the things that challenges you most, because you need to know that you are so unbelievably blessed. But God gives you moments and opportunities to bless others, to invest in others, and to give out of the blessings that He's given you. I don't know where that hits you, but I pray that you would take a challenge to dive into one of those and see God work in your life. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this story and for the challenge that it gives us. We all have to come to a place of saying, oh, man, my life is exactly where I want it to be, or maybe the tough reality that my life is not where it needs to be. And I need to take a step of action to say, God, everything I have is from you. I'm a manager of what you've entrusted to me. There are others that have needs that are greater than mine. God, help me guard my heart so that I can see you at work in it. I can trust that you're going to take care of me, that even though the years are different, the days are different, God, you're not different. You never change. You never change like shifting shadows, and you desire to be there with us at any and every moment. God, we love you. We ask for your help in all this. Thank you for this challenge today. We pray this in your name. Amen.
What a powerful reminder for us to keep our eyes on things that really matter in our lives.
Absolutely. I don't know about you, but there are times in my life when I'm so focused on what I want that I miss what God has.
Hey, it's our prayer that you encounter God this week and that you're able to experience His peace in your life. Thank you and have a good week.
Bye, guys. See you next week.
Digital and consistent giving has never been easier. It's as easy as sending a text from your phone. Simply pull out your phone and text the word GIVE to 605-299-8374. It's as simple as that. Thanks for helping us make a lasting impact in the Black Hills. Here at Fountain Springs, we believe in the next generation. We want you to know that we've made it easy for your kids to engage in a service that meets them at their level. There are 3 easy steps to take to access these services. Step 1, download our app. Launch your preferred app store and search for Fountain Springs Church. Step 2, once you find it, download and open the app. Step 3, on the front page you will see an icon titled Kids Services. Just touch that image and pick the service for your appropriate age group. We have a service designed for preschool kids and a service designed for elementary kids. It's as easy as that. We hope your kids enjoy.